What an evening in the Sahara. One I wish I'd never gone through. I remember I sat on a threadbare pillow in the large tent, waiting awkwardly for the caravan's chief to appear. Until then I waited with a skinny servant. I took the small cup of steaming tea from the dark-skinned man's calloused hands and nodded as a silent thank you. In an hour or two, the man who actually led this caravan through the Sahara Desert would not be so thoughtful of me.
"Drink, the night soon get cold,"
the man said in broken English. He smiled broadly, revealing a row of missing teeth. In a small woven tent we sat on worn pillows. I could tell the cushions once, very long ago, were velvety and soft. Now the cloth was tearing apart at the seams, and the cushioning had formed to the curves of a large posterior. I knew whose. The man in front of me was as worn as those old pillows. He had been worn down by his many treks across the Sahara. Once a limber young man, but now calloused. I knew the toll the trips had taken on him because of the unforgiving wasteland, this desert. I bet, at his age and his toughness, he felt no real pain. And then there was me, once limber too, but now tearing apart. I felt every blister rubbing against my boots and my sore big toe. The arch of my feet ached from my day's walk, and each step was painful. My forehead and scalp had been singed during that day. The sun had burned my neck, and by now the skin had tightened. If I twisted or turned my neck, whether fast or slow, it would sting and feel like it was releasing pent-up heat. With the sun down, the burns were making me shiver with cold. Burning hot by mid-morning, freezing cold by midnight. The desert was terrible, except for the smiling man sitting before me. That man only knew these temperature extremes, never mildness, and he lived that way with the other aspects of his life. The bitter tea burned my tongue, and I straightened my chest as the tea slid down my throat, passing by my heart and into my stomach. I had to take a few deep breaths. Then I thanked the man for taking me in earlier that day. I don't know what I would have done otherwise. The thin man only nodded furiously and huffed. I took another sip, wearily. The tea had cooled slightly, but its bitter taste still made me cringe. For months now I had a bad feeling this would happen. This caravan of camels was hauling salt in the earliest mode of transportation through some of the roughest parts on the globe. But it was my truck that had overheated and stopped running. Not even one of the barking camels that were overladen with the blocks had collapsed. So much for modern advances. My orders were to remain distant from the caravan and simply tail it to Timbuktu, the ancient city in Mali, West Africa. However, quite the opposite had happened. A very young scout with the caravan, sitting on top of a camel, noticed my truck through high-powered binoculars. That modern advancement made me now a supposed guest in the tent of the leader of the caravan. I sipped the tea again, feeling awkward and in pain. The dark-skinned man stared at me, and his smile spread wider. He seemed as happy as a hyena who had found meat. I may have been too easy a meal, if anything.
"Another cup,"
the man said. He took the cup and poured more hot tea. Then he added a spoonful of sugar, stirred it, and handed it back. Nice guy. Before I took a drink, the curtain swished slightly as someone moved behind it. The old spindly man scrambled to move his cushion aside and hoisted a giant one in its place. Then the curtain opened. A large man entered the room and sat in the huge plush cushion. It fit for him, his size, and his respect. He wore a purple turban trimmed with gold yarn. His long robe was extravagant, intricate with designs. Even his graying beard was trimmed and combed like a king.
"Mr. Barnes,"
he said. tisking his tongue, addressing him as a principal would a student in trouble.
Why am I not surprised to meet you here in the middle of the Sahara, but in such a predicament as an overheated truck? Be glad I took you in. The desert is unfriendly to those who do not respect its ways.
This time the dark-skinned man handed the sheik a steaming cup of tea. The large man took it like a king and never acknowledged him. I looked at the sheik's calloused feet, ones that also had trekked for years across hot sand. I noticed the man was lighter skinned than the other one, and he had a full set of teeth. He was twice his size, with a few more chins.
So, tell me, what is your sudden intrigue with the desert and my caravan's trek through it?
He sipped, waiting for a response. Sheik, I tried to smile. I would tell you I'm glad to see you, but I prefer to avoid you altogether.
The feeling is mutual, Mr. Barnes. I have anger toward you too. You have caused me much grief through the years, and I'm weary of you.
I couldn't help but nod, but the nod stiffened my back as I felt my burnt skin tighten. I'd guessed as much.
Why are you here? And don't tell me you think my country is beautiful.
He twisted the ends of his curled mustache. I always had the option to spill my guts on why I'd gone to these foreign places to find leaders who would not like me then or ever thereafter. I could say an intelligence agency had an operative in his caravan who was selling secret cables to major organizations that offered the highest price. To be true, I had been sent by a man named Johnny Reel to follow the sheik. Johnny had information that the sheik had more than blocks of salt on his train. He knew the sheik as an underhanded businessman who dabbled in hauling major weapons deeper into Africa. He would trade the weapons in Mali, take his money, and head north again, much richer than before. The sheik arched his eyebrows, waiting for my reply. I gave a decent explanation. I was testing out the engine on the Jeep to see if it could survive the desert. You know, engineers are always looking to get away from camel trains. They have new petroleum and oil mixes to test, and I get to be the one who gets sunburned doing the tests.
Ha ha ha!
The sheik laughed, his whole body jumbling.
If only you told the truth, Mr. Barnes. You have to lie as much as I do, but you're not as good as me.
Returning to anger, he again twisted his mustache with his fat finger.
Now, I'll ask again. Why are you following me?
And I'll tell you again. I'm only testing the endurance of the Jeep's engine and the new oil mixture, just like I was testing the gliders a few years back and the trucks with the oversized wheels before that. You know me.
So well, in fact, that I don't believe you, and I never have.
He turned hastily to the skinny man beside him.
Take him away, Jan. Tie him up and...
He snarled at me.
This time, take his clothes. Make him learn about the Sahara's cold. Maybe he will rethink ever finding me again.
The man leaped up and grabbed me by my neck viciously. He was like a desert viper. The pain stunned me. It was paralyzing. The man who had smiled and served me tea kindly a few minutes earlier had now become brutal. Driven from the tent, I heard the sheik snort, laughing. Outside, Johann slapped me.
Now you face me, Mitt Barnes,
he growled in his terrible accent. His slap was hard, and I dropped to the ground. Johann pressed his foot on my neck, making me squirm. I breathed in sand and spit it out. Johann hissed happily as he pressed on the neck. When I opened my eyes, I saw Johann's other foot inches from my nose, the knotted toes with overgrown yellow toenails. Johann released his foot and mumbled something angrily in his native language. He ripped off my cotton shirt. The buttons popped off. Immediately, the chill of air ran over my burned body. Then he dragged me to a pile of fresh camel dung. This time, Johann grabbed the bottom hem of my pants and yanked on them. I tried to stop him before the pants were off. Johann, please, don't. I can help you. I can get you your own camels. You deserve more than the sheikh. Johann stopped, but didn't drop the pant legs.
Liar! Always to lie to sheikh.
But me lie to you? I have never, I told him.
Lie to sheikh, lie to me.
And he tore the pants off, leaving me in undershirts, socks, and brown combat boots. Through my wrenching pain, I said, the sheikh has told me things about missiles, guns, new weapons, and stockpiles. You can get them. I know where they are, who to get them from. They'd rather work with someone like you, not the sheikh. I've talked to them about you, how loyal and wise you are. A Sidi. Johann kicked me once more.
Lies again! You talk to no one about me?
I have, Johann, I have. I just wish I could bring you to them. If only you would go. Think of drinking tea all the time, soft cushions, no traveling unless you wanted to. But Johann tied me up with ropes around my wrists and, worst, around my reddened shoulders. He left me. Outside in the night, the temperature dropped from higher than 100 degrees to below 50, I guessed. With these sunburns and the cold, I suffered. Hands bound tightly, sand and pebbles ground against my skin. Don't forget those barking camels and their terrible smell. Late that night, though, I felt a soft hand pat my face. Sir, sir, a young voice said quietly. Sir, I want riches, dollars, tea, cafes, soft cushions. You are for Johann, he refuse. I no refuse, I take. Then his voice changed to a deeper tone, better English. I am more loyal. I recognized him, the young scout with the high-powered binoculars. If you want it, untie me. I will bring you to them. The scout cut the cords. My name? Anwar. He pointed to his chest. Barnes. Yes. Mutt Barnes, yes. Everyone with the caravan was in the tents at the time of night. The scout was on guard duty that night, but his lack of loyalty to the sheikh had drawn him off duty. Where to? I asked. North, to Mizar and Al-Khor, big stars, he said. Then we wait. Whatever you say, but first I need a block of salt as a sort of memento. We walked north, me and just my skivvies and boots, and then waited. At sunrise, a whirl of sand appeared on the horizon, and soon a truck arrived. Anwar spoke to several guys in his language and had convinced them quickly that they were supposed to take us to the city. The men dropped us off in a city of dusty streets. From there, we had left the desert and the sheikh. I introduced Anwar to people I knew, and we split. I never expected to see each other a decade or more later in another city on another continent, in very different circumstances. And this time, I would not be in so much pain.